Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. I am Simply G, and today I'm going to be showing off all of my pickups for the last half of June. There's quite a bit to get through here, both art books and manga, so I hope you guys enjoy. First up for art books, we have High School Days, the Kimi ni Toroke art book, which collects art from 2006 to 2018 and is done by Shina Kazuho, obviously the mangaka of Kimi ni Toroke. Many of you may be familiar with this series. It is a very popular high school romance shoujo, and it is probably one of the longer ones that we have had in English as well. It's 30 volumes long, and this is full of artwork of those characters from that series. It is very, very sweet. I have read the entirety of it in a mix of physical and digital copies. It is really, really, really sweet. It's not, it doesn't really do much outside of what can be expected for a lot of more typical shoujo high school romance. But everything that it does perfectly. I really love all the friendships and trust and respect that all of these characters build between each other, and just how all of these different characters interact, whether they be romantic partners or just friends. So at 30 volumes it is on the longer side, and it is a little bit slow paced, so it's not necessarily one for everyone, but it's definitely one to check out. Next for art books, this one isn't actually technically an art book, but this artist does not have an art book, and this is the next best thing. This is the Theatre de A, or A, by Asumiko Nakamura. This is a collection of her short works that were featured in the Gothic and Lolita Bible. This is the first half. There is a second book, which is a B book. If you look inside there, as I said, it's a collection of short stories that are printed in this beautiful way with a feature color per each short story, and because obviously it's from the Gothic and Lolita Bible, there is a focus on Gothic and Lolita styles. It's really, really good. If you like Nakamura's work, definitely one to check out. But as I said, it is actually like a collection of short stories, but just done in this beautiful, beautiful way. I hope to get the second book as well, which is a white cover, but very, very beautiful, even if you're just looking at it from the artistic point. I'm a big fan of Nakamura's work. As I said, there is no art book for this particular artist as of yet, or possibly ever, so this is one that I wanted to pick up for a very, very long time, and I'm glad that I was able to find a copy. Next is another art book, this time done by Akihiro Yamada, and this is a collection of their works for the 12 Kingdoms. I love this series, love the anime, really wish we would get the light novels available in English once again. If you haven't yet had the pleasure of watching this series, I would recommend the upcoming Discotheque Blu-ray. This one, if you're a fan of Yona of the Dawn, you really should not miss this series. They're very reminiscent of each other, although this one is a little more of an isekai than Yona, whereas that just happens within her world. But beautiful, beautiful pieces, obviously taken from both the novels and various promotional pieces. And a lot of, I think I would say most of the art is black and white, but of course we do have these beautiful color pieces as well. I was so happy to get this book and so happy to find it for a reasonable price. I didn't mention this with the last two, but all of the art books that I got were from Mandarake, as were the ones that I showed off in my last pickup videos, and I need to stay away because I'm spending all my money on these beautiful books. But thankfully I'm catching up with the art books that I want, and this one I will do a more proper art book overview in the foreseeable future. Now I had to readjust my camera for this book because it is very, very large, and this is Kotono Kato's art book for Altair Record of Battles, which is set in historical Turkey. It's a action shonen, if that sounds like your thing. Really fun. I've just read the 6th volume yesterday, and I really enjoy it, but it's only available digitally through Carranza currently. But this art book is honestly one of the most beautiful that I've ever seen. I love even the opening pages you can see here, and the amount of detail in this work is astonishing. If you enjoy just the detail work of artists like Karumori, this one you should not miss. Even individuals like Yana Toboso or Clamp, they're very reminiscent in just the detail. Look how beautiful this is. And I'm a big sucker for historical setting type stuff anyway. But it is a really good manga. If you haven't given it a shot, check it out. Very, very beautiful. And the color on these pieces is astonishing. This is by far, even though the series is not really one that maybe many people know about or are following, this is by far one of the most beautiful and vibrant art books that I actually personally own. And that's saying something because I love all of my art books with all of my heart, but this one just is incredible from start to finish. And I really appreciate, you may see it a little bit in this latter part where you have a larger piece and then a more detailed look into that same piece. I want to find one here like this. You have the whole piece and then looking closer at some of the detail work. It is so beautiful. The series is fun. It has got a pretty good varied cast of characters who are all very likable. It reminds me, as I said, a lot of other historical shonen, things like Arslan as well. So if that's your thing, then check it out. But yeah, absolutely beautiful art book. Just can't compare with anything else. And I will probably do a larger art book overview, although I have shown you quite a bit already within this book. It is one that I hope more people try, and this art book is one that I'm sure a lot of collectors will probably enjoy within their own collection. Finally, for art books, this one's I'm not going to actually show off and open up because I've actually done an art book overview of this particular book before. I've owned it prior, but I managed to find a beautifully done and kept copy of the Animate Limited version of this, which comes with a hard slipcover, and that is Yuki Kamitani's art book for Nabari no O. You can see there's this slipcover to the main book looking like so, or like so. And this copy of the book is in much better condition than the previous copy I owned, so I will probably just sell on my last copy. But yeah, big fan of this series, this mangaka, as you guys know. I can't really stop talking about it. And when I found this in Mandarake for very, very, very cheap, I knew I had to pick it up, and I didn't really mind that I already owned the book. No big deal. But yes, beautiful, and it is always nice when you find like an anime exclusive or a store exclusive version of an art book, like you can sometimes do. First, for manga, we have some new releases from Carranza, and that is Volume 20 of Noragami by Adachi Toka. This is an ongoing shonen about Yato, the stray god, and his various interactions with the people and other gods in his life. There is always something going on, and the way this series has built up, the drama, the tension, the excitement is phenomenal. This series was very, very popular a couple years ago, but it did go on hiatus, which I think has hurt its popularity a little bit, but still phenomenal. I have to give credit to Adachi Toka, the two women who write and draw the series, because they have just kept a consistency throughout the series despite the breaks, despite the different types of stories that have been in this series. Just how seamlessly the plot and the pacing is, and how well the series can transition from one storyline to the next. It's so, so, so good, and I definitely recommend it to people. If you have not also checked out the anime, that is also fantastic. It is phenomenal, and if you are looking for a series about a more supernatural Shinto-based story set in Japan, with action, with comedy, with a lot of heart to it, this one should be your go-to. It's one I think most, if not everyone, will enjoy. Next, starting on Viz releases, we have the most recent volume of My Hero Academia, volume 19 by Kohei Horikoshi. Of course, My Hero Academia really doesn't need any introduction by this point. It's fun day-to-day lives of a bunch of superhero students and their life at UA, their school. And in particular, Deku, who is our main character and who has just recently come into his powers thanks to his longtime hero, All Might. This particular volume is definitely a transitionary one between two more serious arcs. I am not really picking this series up really quickly. It's not a high priority, but it was very, very cheap on Amazon, so I decided to just pick it up. I don't know whether I'm going to just stop at 20 for a while and let a couple volumes build up, because I am following this series on the Shonen Jump app. I don't read it book to book, if that makes sense. But this particular volume is the school festival fun, nothing high stakes really here. There is a villain in this particular part of the story, but a different type of villain to what we've seen as of yet. And it is fun. It's just meant to be like a fun breather after all of the stress and drama and tension of the last arc. So yes, My Hero Academia really doesn't need any encouragement for people to read. A lot of people are already fans, and Horikoshi does a really great job at making this a really interesting, engaging, enthusiastic type of series that gets readers invested very quickly. And it is. There's a great cast of characters here that you want to see what happens to them. But yeah, My Hero Academia, pretty great. Definitely one of the more popular series in Jump right now, and for good reason. You can definitely tell why. Starting with Viz Books, we have the final volume of Gangsta Curse, the Marco Adriano spin-off. This is his history, his backstory, in which Marco was previously known as Spurs and was a Twilight Hunter. If you're not familiar with Gangsta, it is set in a nearish or alternate world or future in which chemically engineered or altered super soldiers are a thing called Twilights. And Marco is sort of a secondary character within the story. But this is, as I said, his backstory and how he managed to become the person he is now. As we know, in his previous life, he was a hunter. He would kill these super soldiers, and now in the main story, he is not. And this is the story of like what changed, how did he get to this point, what happened. I still have not read this particular volume. It is only 5 volumes long, but I wanted to wait until it was all out so I could just blast right through it. Marco is definitely one of my favorite characters of this franchise, and I would definitely say that this spin-off is a worthy addition to this series and to the franchise if you are a fan of Gangsta, the main series. I find a lot of the time spin-off series can be pretty hit or miss depending on who the character focused on is, who's writing it, who's drawing it. It can be, a little bit all over the place. But I'm happy to say that this is not one of those cases. It's very, very, very interesting and a great addition to a really compelling character from the main story anyway. Yeah, I'm happy that this has now concluded. We have all of it, and the main story is off of hiatus, so I can get back into reading that one. It's great, especially if you like dark action, gritty, gangster-esque seinen stories like this one. More Viz with one of the most exciting releases for me personally this month, and that is volume 15 of Oku the Inner Chambers by Fumi Yoshinaga. You guys know I'm a huge Yoshinaga fan. Everything she does I love. I just adore her manga. But this is an ongoing story about court drama, or drama within the court, the Emperor's court, that is, not the legal court. And it's so wonderful. As I said, I'm a big historical fiction nerd, and the fact that Yoshinaga, with just how wonderfully she writes characters, with how expressive they are, and how down to earth and human she can create people in her manga, just lends itself perfectly to this type of story. And the amount of actual real historical fact that's incorporated into the story is amazing, and in how it's so engaging for someone who doesn't necessarily have a background or a broad knowledge with Japanese history. For any of you who don't know what the story is about, it's a retelling of actual historical events in where Japan has been decimated by a pox that only affects young men, 20 and under, so the population of men has just been wiped out. There are very, very, very few men around, and those who have survived are treated with kid gloves. Sort of a role reversal between men and women, and obviously because men no longer are the majority or no longer have the power that they once did, women have taken over their roles. So it's sort of a flip of actual historical events, but with women in the place of a lot of very well-known historical figures. It's really, really, really interesting, and because it's set during sort of the isolationist period of Japan, it's sort of a, well, this could have happened, and people just didn't know because it was such a well-kept secret, because Japan was cut off from the rest of the world. I adore this series, as I've mentioned multiple times. I'm a huge Yoshinaga fan. I love all of her works. And this one in particular, whilst I wouldn't necessarily say it's a magnum opus, I would definitely say that it lends itself perfectly to the type of manga that Yoshinaga writes and likes to write. Between this and What Did You Eat Yesterday, two very, very, very different series, I feel like she's satisfying herself on the sorts of things she wants to write. And if you have not tried Oku and you're a fan of historical drama and, you know, conniving politics and scheming and all of this sort of thing, you owe yourself to read Oku. It's just honestly that good. Now I'm going to be continuing with my last Viz title, but I will say that from here on out, all of the titles I'm going to be talking about are either BL or Yuri, so if that's not your thing, then you're not going to be missing out on anything, so feel free to go. But this is the third volume of Escape Journey by Ogeretsu Tanaka. Now this is a series that the first volume I really enjoyed, aside from one dubious moment almost within the first volume, and I was sort of upset that that was in their first volume, and said that I would be taking the series on a volume by volume basis, which I have done. I must say that this series, despite that one part, and even with that one part, has really grown, and it addressed a lot of that. And I really appreciate how Tanaka is able to show the complexities of an imperfect relationship between two people who are trying to make things work, which is what I enjoyed from this series initially anyway. And it continues with that. I really, really, really appreciate that. I would say that Tanaka's work is very like hit or miss and polarizing. Some of her stuff is great and you might really love it, and then other stuff of hers you might never want to even think about. That's sort of my feeling on her upcoming licensed work. I'm not interested in it, but I'm happy for people who do enjoy it. But this one, if you are wanting one of her better works, probably one of her more approachable works, this is definitely one to check out. It's also way skinnier than the previous two. I must also say that this particular volume there's explicit scenes in it, so I'm not going to head towards the back, but I would say it's probably the least explicit of the three. I can't really remember how explicit the second volume was. So yeah, I mean, that may be a plus or a minus for you. But if you enjoy BL and you're looking for one that actually has a pretty good breakdown of a relationship that's trying to make things work and isn't always perfect, but is very enthusiastic and trying to cooperate between the two sides, I would definitely recommend this one. As I mentioned, there is a particular moment in the first volume that is fairly dubious, but I would say it's more so very indicative of a real life situation or relationship or argument than just feeling like it's feeding the usual BL tropes. So if that's something that, you know, won't bother you compared to a lot of the more harmful and toxic tropes of the genre, then yeah, you probably will not have an issue with it. But if you are very sensitive to those sorts of things, then yeah, maybe give it a skip. But I would feel like you'd be missing out on what is otherwise a very solid, decent story. about two pretty complicated characters. And overall, I really enjoyed this. As I said, I'm not particularly looking forward to her next work that's coming out in English, thanks to Sublime, but I do hope that we see more of Tanaka's works available in English in the future. Next are some Seven Seas titles, starting with Volume 5 and 6 of Bloom Into You by Nakatani Nio. The series is finishing in 3 chapters, so the next collected volume in Japan, which is the 8th volume, will be the last one. And I think that's both a good and bad thing. I really liked that this series had a little bit more time to develop, but I do wish that more Yuri focused on a relationship for a longer period of time. Although that's sort of something that doesn't happen in Yuri or BL in general. But this series is definitely one of the better Yuris coming out currently. I really, really enjoy how complex these characters feel about not only their relationship, but their actual sexual identity and who they are, and their personal identity, and how they fit in with the norm. I've said this before, but there's a really interesting element of asexuality or even aromanticism within the series that is addressed pretty readily and not just sort of ushered into like, oh, well, it's because they're girls and they have, Yuri's meant to have this sexless type of quality to it, this innocence to it. It's not that, it's more so just a disinterest in it. I don't know. I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly, but I would say that it's one that a lot of people would be interested in if you are looking for that sort of representation within manga. It's also very, very, very beautiful. It's interesting how well balanced the series is, especially considering from what I can gather, this is one of Nio's earliest works, or first actual serialized works, and the fact that it is so strong is a great thing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the 7th volume and the final volume whenever it comes to English, and I'll be sad once the series is finished, but happy that I was able to experience such a great series like Bloom Into You. More Seven Seas and another really exciting book that I've been really, really, really wanting and really anticipating, and that is Classmates or Dokyusei Volume 1 by Asumiko Nakamura. This is technically it's a collected single volume BL about these two teenage boys, one who is more straight-laced, the other who's just sort of a free-living rock and roll kind of guy. They become unlikely friends after one learns that the other needs help with his choir practice, and so they slowly start to have like private lessons and grow closer and closer through that. This is a long-time franchise from Nakamura, a beloved franchise by Nakamura, and there are multiple sequels and spin-offs and things like that, which is why this particular volume is called Volume 1. I believe that the Graduates manga will be bundled as like Volumes 2 and 3 with this, and regarding the other various spin-offs, OB and things like that, I don't know if they've been licensed or if they will be licensed, but I know that a lot of people have been checking this series out, and I'm so happy because it is wonderful and one of the better BLs from the last, 5-10 years. It's one that I've always wanted to own on my shelves. Previously, June or DMP did do a digital-only release, so I have owned the series before digitally. But that release was, I believe, missing pages. Like, it wasn't very good. DMP, not very good in general, but there was a lot of issues. I'm so happy that Seven Seas decided to rescue it and spruce it up and give it the release that it deserves, because it's one that BL fans and even just like LGBT fans have wanted for a very, very long time. And if you have not yet, there's also a film adaptation of this particular manga, this particular volume, called Dokyusei. It's available on Blu-ray in English from Aniplex of America. It's expensive, it's only an hour long. The runtime per dollar price is about $1 a minute. It's not cheap, as expected for an Aniplex title, but oh my goodness, is it worth it. It is by far one of the best BL animated things we've ever gotten. to be seen as to how the upcoming BL films we're getting, like Given and Twittering Birds Never Fly, hold up. We'll have to see. But for me, it's definitely my personal favorite. It's just so beautiful, and this manga is also so beautiful. So if you're a fan of this genre, if you like sweet, falling in love, first love type of stories, I would absolutely 100% recommend Classmates Dokusei by Nakamura. It's one that has really needed a wider release to English audiences, and I'm so glad that it finally managed to get that. Lastly, we have another BL, and I would say this is one of, if not the debut BL series from Yen Press, and that is Monster and the Beast, Volume 1 by Ranji. I was not aware that this was an ongoing series. Even when I bought it, when I received it, even when I was reading it, I thought, like, how are they going to wrap this up in one volume? The fact is they weren't, because there's more than one volume. So that was something I just didn't realize. Even when I saw the one on the spine and the cover, I just did not register in my brain. But this is a love story between a monstrous forest demon inhuman creature and a middle-aged man who, although looking like a perfect gentleman, is sort of very flirtatious and promiscuous and like very openly sexual all of the time. It's an interesting dynamic, and it does remind me a little bit of Beauty and the Beast Girl. Of course, that is a Yuri title and is only one volume and very fluffy and just like heartwarming and sweet. But the relationship that our human character has with other people and with his past and that sort of thing reminds me of the human character in that other manga. And the personality of Kave, our monster in this series, also reminds me a lot of the monster in that other series, and sort of their relationship with humans and their loneliness and wanting to connect with other people. It's interesting. They're very similar, but also quite different. I would say if you're someone who likes romance between human characters and non-human characters, this is definitely one for you. It's not sexual at all or like explicit at all. There's reference to things, but nothing is actually done or shown or anything like that. And there's a really interesting sort of mystery too. I want to know what happens in the next volume. But if you're not a fan of monster and human relationships, especially when the monsters look very much like monsters and not just like a cute or hot individual with animal ears or something, then maybe not. Don't check this out. But I know there's plenty of you monster lovers out there. Don't try to hide. I know you exist. It's not my first choice in relationships, but honestly, this is written really well in a really, really compelling way, and I want to read more. Yeah, I'm not as shameless as some other individuals that I know, but I'm not good. Like, it's fine. I'm not going to judge anyone. And if you're into it, this is definitely one to check out. But yeah, it's fun. It's interesting. And if you liked Beauty and the Beast Girl, I would say this has a little bit more teeth than that series does. But if you liked that one and you're into BL, I would highly, highly recommend this one. If you're into monster and human relationships, I definitely recommend this one. If you're just into a pretty interestingly written BL with sort of a fantasy-esque setting and you don't care about the non-human aspect of it, I would recommend this one. It's good. It's a solid little start to a series, and I look forward to volume 2. So that is everything that I got for the last half of June. Oh my goodness, we are almost into July. That is a crazy thought. Lots of very different things here. Obviously, a lot of my money went towards art books this month. Obviously, I showed off in this pickups and last pickups. And I hope to do more art book overviews showing them off properly to you guys. Really, really love a good art book. And I sort of indulged myself after my exams were over, so a bit of a celebration for me there. But in addition to that, really great spread of particular manga. Oku, as I said, definitely one I've been really, really looking forward to. Classmates, wonderful debut. And also finishing 2 series with Gangsta Cursed and Escape Journey, as well as various manga here, as you can see. Let me know your thoughts on any of these particular volumes, whether you agree, disagree, tell me what you've gotten, if there's anything I've missed out or should definitely check out. I will also say that I have started an Instagram account. I am not very good at social media. I have been on Twitter for quite a while now, but I've never really done Instagram, so it's a learning experience for me. But my link to my Instagram will be in the description, along with my Twitter and Book Depository affiliate link, as always. So if you want to follow me on there, see some pictures of some of the volumes I get before I even show them off, or see what I'm reading, things like that, then feel free to follow me there. I will try to post on a semi-regular basis. I hope all of you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I am Simply G, and I'll catch you in the next video, guys. Bye till then.